We are socked in with overcast, and it's starting to look a little bit more showery, a little bit more threatening, and that's because of the approach of some upper-level instability. Here's what the surface chart looks like. This doesn't really show the upper air patterns, but there is a cutoff low out in West Texas, in eastern New Mexico, and that's having an influence on the weather. Also down to the south, we've got Hurricane Zeta approaching the Louisiana coast, and that'll be making landfall about the time most of you all are watching this video. Conditions have moderated across much of the U.S., but we've got a new blast of cold air coming into the Great Lakes region and into the Northeast. And out west, things are quieting down with a plateau high, a stagnating Pacific high covering much of Idaho and Nevada and the Great Basin region. Now, one other detail that we can see is that the frontal system has pushed well to the south. See, there it is, all the way down in Old Mexico, but the back end of the Canadian air is pretty much right there through El Paso, Alamogordo, and Albuquerque. Now, of course, the big story is Hurricane Zeta. Here's the past 8 hours of infrared satellite animation. And we do see an eye in the center, but it's mostly filled. And the eye wall spiraling around it appears to be non-symmetric. It's kind of broken up. So this is putting it in the, I guess if you want to go to the Dvorak scale. Let's take a look. So if we really want to use Dvorak, we have to look at the exact color bands used in that scheme. So there it is, eyewall showing up about like that. We don't have that dark gray color, but it does look like the white and black shades are completely circling the center. And there's the chart. Yeah, I'd say T5 is a good estimate. T6 is where you get into the more symmetrical appearances, and that's going to put us right around 90 knots. So it has picked up a bit, and yeah, we're seeing 85 knots sustained winds on that storm. The track, yeah, that's a fast-moving storm there. But on the east side, we're going to have a combination of the forward movement of the storm plus the wind field existing within that storm. So there may be some very strong impacts there in Alabama, coastal Mississippi, and parts of extreme northwest Florida. And here's the high-resolution rapid refresh, 18Z, maximum winds for the entire run. And what we see here is this corridor of, looks like maybe 160 kilometers per hour. Keep in mind that these are maximum gusts, not sustained winds. So we're talking right around 100 to 105 miles an hour. And the worst of the winds will probably be right around Gulfport, slightly to the west. New Orleans is on the western edge. They'll probably see around 80 to 85 miles an hour for max winds. So basically it's going to be between the eastern outskirts of New Orleans and Biloxi where the heaviest winds should be found. And then we're going to have this inland corridor tonight towards the area just south of Birmingham. And peak surge up to 6 to 9 feet along the coast of Mississippi and lower peaks on either side. Yeah, that rain is coming down as I record this program. I don't think you can hear it very well because I'm using an audio expansion filter that kind of cuts out some of that background noise, but it is coming down. We've got a temperature of 45 here. If it was 10 or 15 degrees colder, we'd be in some trouble. Anyway, that's all being caused by so-called overrunning. We've got a very strong warm air advection pattern, and this is where you can really see it on the skew-t. This is the profile, what we have right now. Look at that very strong southerly flow, 30 to 40 knots, just above the frontal layer. and it's got a lot of moisture. The precipitable water, 1.4 inches. And a lot of that southerly flow is because we've got pressure falls up to the north of here. We've got that cutoff low still to the northwest. So we're not going to see things clearing out here until all that stuff passes to the east. The flip side of the coin is the strong cold air advection in the lowest couple thousand feet, and that's being accelerated southeast by that hurricane off the coast of Texas. So when you increase that cold air advection in the low levels, that deepens and thickens the cold air mass and increases the slope of the isentropic surfaces. So this process here is going to result in more lift. And there's also the differential instability. Up here it's cooling, down here it's moistening and warming. So that right there is going to give you increased lapse rates and more instability. I mean, if you cut off this bottom part of the skew-t and just looked at this, that would be pretty favorable for showers. And that's kind of what's happening aloft. And it's precipitating down into the lower levels. So looking in the southeastern U.S., have a front extending from South Carolina down into Louisiana. One thing that may throw off some analysts is the cooler weather in central Alabama, central Mississippi. I mean, you go from 85 around Tallahassee, and it drops to 76, 77 around Columbus, Mississippi. Is that an air mass change? Well, you can get a little help from the high-resolution rapid refresh. So we can wander over and look at that. This is the temperature plot, and you can see how it's warm here and cooler here. Now, the way you can figure that out is to drop a forecast sounding in this cooler air mass and see what's going on. Do you see a frontal inversion? Any trace of cold air? No. Nothing like that going on. Let's try another one around Atlanta. Frontal inversion? No. This is likely just clouds keeping the temperatures down. Go down to the south, 86 around southern, I guess that'd be Valdosta, Georgia. Yeah, they've got the heating going on. So that's changing things a little bit in the lower levels, but it's still the same air mass. And you have to go way up here to northwestern Mississippi, let's say around Memphis, right here. That's going to show a different sounding. And there you can see the frontal inversion. And that's what you're going to want to do when you analyze these charts. That'll help inject a little bit of common sense into your process. Definitely a front in Texas. That's back behind that cold front, which is now offshore. And we're starting to get that blustery northwest flow feeding into the storm down to the south. Anyway, as we talked about, New Orleans area, Mississippi, Alabama, Mobile, that's all under the gun for tropical or Hurricane Zeta, which is coming on shore this evening. There's our satellite showing Zeta rapidly approaching the coast, and ahead of it, the massive infusion of tropical air interacting with that front. But further out west, it looks like we're getting a bit of clearing there in Texas. Sun is breaking out. But I think we need to move west for a closer look. There you can see the upper level low spinning right around the Lubbock area. See that spin in the cloud? We can resolve that a little bit better with the water vapor imagery. That's an excellent tool for seeing what's happening aloft. And there you can see the upper level low rotating through that area. And this marks a very large pool of cold air aloft. So if you have any heating, you can get some cold core convection. But further south around the periphery, subsidence working into the backside. So this is actually given us a dry slot moving into the Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio area. Any cold core convection going on? Not really. It looks kind of stable. These all look like stratocumulus fields. Maybe built up a little bit around Big Spring, but this is pretty flat. And I think the air mass is just really cold. In the northeastern U.S., kind of a transitional pattern going on. I see evidence of cold air advection cumulus there in New York. There is a low-pressure system offshore, and I did find kind of a weak front in this area. Let's take a look at that. There it is, weak frontal system off the Connecticut and Rhode Island coast, and you can see that weak cyclonic circulation right there. So that's helping to produce some of that rain that we've got going on in southern New England. And then further out west, we're pulling in some of the cold air from the west and giving us some modest cold air advection there. But as we go further west, we do get back into some of that warmer air over the Great Lakes. Up to the north, new outbreak of cold air. We've got snow in North Bay, Thunder Bay, many parts of northern Ontario. And even further out into North Dakota, north wind starting to take hold in that region. And Winnipeg, 28 degrees there with a north wind. One thing I did not mark is the high pressure area in the Midwest. Let me drop that on there. Looks like maybe a 1019 millibar high right there. And this is all kind of a big high pressure area extending east and west. Pretty quiet in the northwestern states this evening. High pressure covering Idaho, Great Basin as we mentioned earlier, and the tail end of that front in Canada looks like that's north of Edmonton. So this is all part of a slowly modifying mild air mass. Warm weather in the deserts of Oregon, and then we pick up the marine layer off the northwest coast. And there's that satellite. Not much going on at the moment. And it looks even better as you head into the southwestern states. You can see some of the snow that came down along the Mogollon Rim in Arizona. That's burning off pretty quickly. There you go. That's a close-up look at that stuff. Albuquerque located about here, Santa Fe further north, and Gallup right there. So there's been a dusting of snow in the lower elevations and quite a bit of snow in the mountains. And as you go east, you get into some of the instability near that upper level low. And there's a surface map for the southwestern states, the back edge of that Canadian front, right there around the Rio Grande Valley, and conditions starting to recover in Arizona, Nevada, and California. I think a quick look up in Canada is certainly warranted. A lot of this weather has come out of there. Well, I don't see much happening. There's this fresh polar outbreak, but it doesn't have a whole lot of mass to it. Got this outgoing inclusion in the Hudson Bay region, and looks like a new anticyclone moving into Alaska. I think what I might be more concerned with is the snow depth, because there is some snow going on throughout much of Canada. Let's check out the GFS, because I'm always interested in fresh snowfall, because that's what produces a lot of our spectacular cold air outbreaks. And what we see here over the next 48 hours, most of the fresh snowfall is coming down in Quebec, with some very localized accumulations in British Columbia, Edmonton area, and Yukon. Nothing extensive really, but yeah, there is snow coming down, and then we get the snow track across Manitoba over the weekend. And you can see this new cluster blooming up in Yukon and Northwest Territories early next week. And those are some pretty large depths, 5 to 10 inches and even higher. So yeah, that's dumping a whole lot of snow over Canada. And that leads me to believe that we could be seeing a new round of cold air production going into the middle of November. So looking ahead at the charts, looks stormy through Canada. You can see that one system coming through over the weekend. The thicknesses are pretty low across northern Canada, and looks like one plunge coming through the Midwest late in the weekend into early next week. And this is what I'm watching here. See this track here coming out from British Columbia. That's going to dump a whole lot of snow across that region. And yeah, there it is. There it comes. See the heights coming down. And then we've even got this little thing here. And there it is. Yeah. This is a vast plume of cold air coming down. This is way out there. This is like the 11th of November. But it's something that we're going to need to keep an eye on. And then it looks like maybe another round coming in back after that. And there's our update as we get ready to post this. Our hurricane is moving fast, already making landfall. The main thing that we're watching, in addition to the high winds, is the spiral bands. This is going to be a pretty sheared environment, ripe for rotating storms. So we may see a few brief tornadoes embedded in these cells. SPC already has watch boxes across much of southeast Louisiana all the way up to southern Alabama. And that is a tornado watch. And if you don't believe it, I can pull up the high-resolution rapid refresh, get out into this area here just off the Mississippi coast, bring up a forecast sounding, and you can see the vast shear storm relative helicity, curved hodograph, and the automated algorithm predicting a possibility of tornadoes. Now, we don't have much instability, but you really don't need that to get rotating storms because the environment has already given you rotation. You just need upward motion to tilt that rotation into the vertical. And with a CAPE of about 1,000 to 1,500, yeah, that's going to be plenty enough to do that. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for these storms here on the eastern side of the track and be ready to head to shelter when things start looking bad or a warning is issued for your area. And that'll do it for this episode of Forecast Lab. We can't give you any aerial footage because of the rain coming down, but here's some clips from the video vault. So hope you enjoy that. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.